Guys, good job. Remember last class we were in the lab taking the practice SOL. We're going to make groups starting next week using that information. And today we're going to review what you guys did on Monday just to make sure you understand the important parts of plot. So we handed back the Third Wish packet, but what you're working on right now is the vocabulary, which is a challenge. It is a challenge from that story, some of the more difficult words from that selection.
And you guys can write out the synonym to the word in the blank, or you could just draw lines if that's easier for you. Guys, you are very close to getting an extra point. One finger if you need one more minute, up to 5 fingers, depending on how much time you think you need for this. Okay, we're going to go with 4 minutes.
4 more minutes.
We're going to go over the answers. If there's some that you don't know, that's okay.
In the back one. Yeah.
Can we borrow a pencil?
There's 2 up here.
minutes and then we'll go over this.
Yeah. 30 seconds, guys. It's not really sort of, but I wouldn't. Yeah.
Okay guys, we are gonna go over this. So the first one, canal, what did you guys get? Waterway, excellent.
Okay, the next one, dignity. What'd you guys get?
Pride.
Right, good. That was easy. And what happens if you come across a word on the SOL and you don't know the word? What's one strategy you can use to context clues? Okay, you can break the words into parts. Okay. So this story you guys read on Monday that we're going to work with today, the third wish does have some very difficult vocabulary. So we're going to talk about that, including the next word.
Preening, what'd you guys get for preening? Smoothing. Anybody get anything else? Okay, good.
Yeah. Okay, the next word, gleam. Shine, good. Okay, Miss Willis' turn.
Fierce. Freeze. Fierce.
Strong. Okay.
Strong, good.
Presumptuous. Now this is a good word because it has a prefix and a suffix. So what do you think it means? Landon. Assuming, good. Perfect. So yeah, pre, before, and the OUS, anybody know that suffix?
ING.
That's a suffix too. What's OUS mean? Okay, good, that's why you say it. So think of an example, courageous. What do you think it means? Having maybe? Active having? Yeah, having courage. So presumptuous is having before judgment. Okay. All right, next one was supposed to.
Tremendous.
Great.
Okay, excellent.
Horse. Yay.
Basketball.
Rough sounding, good.
Remote. Good.
Yeah, I thought that was a good definition because when I went through this, I was like, the remote for the TV, distant. Yeah, you can change the channel because I lived during the time you had to get up and turn the channel. It was like very hard.
You mean,
And
and guys,
that sounds like
anytime.
It was.
Mr. Harris just gave you guys a really, really good strategy to use if you don't know a word. You think about something that the word sounds like maybe, or sometimes that you use that word, and then think about what it could mean, okay? That's a really great way to help you remember the meaning of difficult words.
Okay, The next word is rheumatism. That's a very specific, like, medical term. Anybody get that one? Not remove.
Evil.
It's not evil.
Stirring, swishing.
Stiffness. Yeah. So it attacks the joints and makes your joints swollen, and that's what Mr. Peters has at the end of the story, which we're gonna actually look at again.
Why don't you just call it like arthritis?
It is like arthritis, but I think it's different than that, sure.
And guys, that's one of the challenges with English, and that you'll see on the English SOL, is sometimes there are these kind of bizarre words that we don't really use anymore that mean the same thing as something else. That's why it's so important that you use your context clues to figure out the meanings of these words, okay? Don't get scared off by words like rheumatism. Think through them.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Is the English SOL like one of those ones where you write like the whole short story?
No, that's the writing SOL. This reading SOL will be 100% multiple choice or technology enhanced questions where you'll be moving things.
When do we have writing?
Okay.
Great. But pause on that. Angela,
Is it multiple choice if you have to write down?
I just answered that. Does anybody remember what I said? Noah.
He says it's mostly 100% multiple choice except for one that are like you have to drag.
Yeah, yeah. And so those are the more difficult questions, the ones you drag.
Okay, next one. I think that's me. Wrestling. Noisy. Noisy. Good.
Good. Okay, the next one, extricate. In the story, Mr. Peters has to extricate the swan from the bush. So what's that? Remove. Good. Okay.
Primroses. Good. Did you guys know that from Hunger Games?
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I think every time I hear
Okay, my turn. Frantically. Wildly.
I put it there and
If you're frantic, what are you like?
crazy.
Starring swishing.
Okay, I'll take wildly. That seems to be the best answer.
Yeah.
Evil. But it's also scared, nervous.
It's
stuff
nervous.
like
It
that.
has something to do with like anxiety. You're kind of frantic. You don't know what's gonna happen.
Rash.
Thoughtless.
Good.
Okay, thrashing, stirring, swishing.
Wildly.
Okay.
Wildly could also work for that.
Some of these are interchangeable. A few.
Entangled. Yes, good.
Okay, this is a really good word to talk about. It's malicious, and if you take Spanish, you see that mal means what? Bad. Okay, so if you have, and all language works in a way where words in other languages sometimes can help you. So like Lucas speaks Portuguese. What's mal? Is there a word mal in Portuguese? Is it similar to Spanish?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's it mean? Yeah, not Portuguese, but what does malicious mean?
Evil. No.
Evil. Yeah, like bad, with bad intentions.
But what about delicious? Does that mean that too?
No, delicious means that's a good word.
Delicious means tasty.
But
Well,
we
and then
don't know.
OUS, like courageous that we talked about, so delicious would be, having good flavor.
So Oakley, both of those have the same suffix, so they mean what we said before, the act of having. Okay? So if something's delicious, it has really good flavor.
Del means
Okay.
food.
That means computers.
Okay, we're getting away from this. Okay, threatening. Back to the worksheets. Threatening. What does that mean? Scary. Good.
Okay, composure. Okay, we kind of lost some composure as we get to the bottom. Yes, Vivek.
Control.
Control, yes. If you have composure, you're under control.
Companion. Yay.
Okay, reflecting.
What did we have for thrashing?
Okay, good. So, vocabulary is important for the SOL because there are, what do you think this was, between 3 and 5 specific vocabulary questions on this fact.
No,
It's
only
got
like
100 questions. It's 55 questions. It's 55 questions, guys. 10 don't count. You need a 66%, 30 out of 45. So everyone in here did well on the practice test. I'm not worried about anyone in here on this test. So we're going to have confidence. And the good news is our next unit is literary analysis, which means, let's have someone explain what that means in class. Okay, Landon, go ahead. What do you think that means?
Literature means like reading.
Okay,
Like,
reading.
An analysis means like a kind of an overview of something that happened. So we're going to be kind of like overviewing like everything we did in English so far.
Yeah,
That-
we're going
that's
to be
really good.
applying everything that we did in English so far to different texts, and we're going to be kind of doing it all together. Throughout this year, we've been doing it kind of in chunks. We've been doing it in pieces. Now we're going to take a new text, and we're going to do it all together.
Right, so it's not going to be so much Miss Wilderson and Mr. Harrison analyzing, I almost said analyzing, analyzing the works. You guys are going to be the ones who have to analyze and figure out the parts. So we're using the story you read Monday, which we're going to reread really quickly, and The Third Wish. And guess what? Miss Hatch's class is also using that because we try to align with her.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So we're going to analyze, but like Landon said, Landon did that perfectly because he also said we can review for the SOL this time. So this is really our time to like fill in the gaps if there are gaps. Like make sure you understand theme, because how many people think they know theme at this point? What's it mean? See, look, that's the author's message. Good job. So that's where we are right now, and what we're going to do next is we're going to turn to page 199 in the textbook. That's where the third wish is, and we're going to go through just to make sure everyone has the different parts and important elements.
And did anybody not get their paper handed back that knows that they did that? We have one without a name on it.
We have one without a name on it.
199.
All I heard was have fun burning down.
I love how this table has all their books open, ready to go. This table, good job. Back table, awesome work. Nice.
Okay, guys, so you guys know basically what happened in this story. But now we're going to talk about the important things you need to know for not only the SOL, but just for life, so you can be intelligent readers. You know, that's the goal. It's not so much that you do well on the test, but you guys know how to read something.
And guys, when we read this the second time, really, really try to focus on what the conflict is and what starts the conflict. Does anyone remember what we call the event that starts the conflict?
Rising action.
No, it's
Are you
right before
killing
the
me?
rising action. In between
you
the
got
exposition
super
and the
good.
rising action. Think about a car. What do you do when you turn on a car?
Put in the key.
Into the ignition. So this was the initiating event. Initiating event, okay? So try to think of the initiating event as we read through it.
And when we go through, we're not going to stop it all the time, but to get these important elements, we are. And this is read by just, I think, a teacher at another school. So 199. Here we go, the third way.
As long as it's read out loud.
Once there was a man who was driving in his car at dusk on a spring evening from part of the forest of Savernake. His name was Mr. Peters. The primroses were just beginning, but the trees were still bare, and it was cold. The birds had stopped singing an hour ago.
Okay, so we already have to stop. We got two important elements that have already been introduced. Sienna, what is the setting of the story? She's got it. She's got it. Give her some time. The forest. Okay, that's the place. That'll work. It's by Savernake, Forest of Savernake. What's another part, Jarrell? What's another part? Like you could say season or time.
It's like spring maybe?
Spring, okay, that's part of the setting. Alex, what's another part?
Dusk.
Dusk.
Yes.
Okay, so why would dusk make a good setting for a story? Okay, there's time there, but what kind of conflict could you see at dusk, or that has something to do with? Yeah, Oakley. Yeah, creepy cage. Yeah, things become less clear. Like, so that's a good time. What's a story we read earlier this year that had a lot of conflict due to setting? Outsiders has a lot of conflict due to setting. Not the one I was thinking of. I'm thinking of one that was on Venus.
I think you got it.
What is that?
that.
The one where it was like really cold outside.
It's like raining.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And he was like stuck in his cabin. or
Yeah,
something.
all summer and a day. That's why we read that one, to show you how
Wait,
it's
which one do you think of?
I'm like, it was like the one where it was like a winter storm.
Okay.
Oh,
Days
yeah,
waiting.
I remember that story too. That wasn't the one I think of, but that works too.
Okay.
We have a lot. We did a lot of stuff.
Yeah, we've done a lot. You guys are ready. Okay. So the other question I have, Helen, who's the protagonist? And I've gotten some really strange answers for this.
Wait, is the protagonist the main character?
Yes.
Oh,
Mr. Peters, yesterday or the day before when I asked, I got the author's name and I was like, no. So Mr. Peters is the person we're rooting for. Now remember, protagonists don't have to be someone who's good. Like, you can't say the good guy, because sometimes our protagonist is not a good person. And those make really interesting stories.
And the more complex the story gets, you'll realize that the lines between good and bad aren't as clear. So it's really important that you make that distinction in your head. The protagonist is the main character, not the good character.
Okay, and remember, on the SOL, don't overthink these questions. Don't try to, don't think they're trying to confuse you, because they're not. Okay, here we go.
As Mr. Peters entered a straight, empty stretch of road, he seemed to hear a faint crying and a struggling and thrashing, as if somebody was in trouble far away in the trees. He left his car and climbed the mossy bank beside the road. Beyond the bank was an open slope of beech trees, leading down to thorn bushes through which he saw the gleam of water. He stood a moment, waiting to try and discover where the noise was coming from, and presently heard a rustling and some strange cries in a voice which was almost human, and yet there was something too hoarse about it at one time and too clear and sweet at another. Mr. Peters ran down the hill as he neared the bushes. He saw something white among them, which was trying to extricate itself. Coming closer, he found that it was a swan that had become entangled in the thorns growing on the bank of the canal.
Okay, so let's make an inference at this point, because we just had some clues about the type of character Mr. Peters is. What inference can we make based upon his actions right now? He's nice. Why do you say he's nice? Now it's time to use the text to support, right? Yeah, okay, so he tried to save her. He's not the type of guy who's driving home at dusk, probably tired. I just want to get home. He's the type of guy who hears screaming and is like, oh, I better stop the car. He's like a superhero to me, because he's like, I'm stopping the car, I'm investigating, and I'm going to solve this mystery. So
He's looking for himself.
yeah, that is the setting of almost every single horror story. So, and you're going to notice that something weird happens.
The bird struggled all the more frantically as he approached, looking at him with hate in its yellow eyes. When he took hold of it to free it, hissed at him, pecked him, and thrashed dangerously with its wings, which were powerful enough to break his arm. Nevertheless, he managed to release it from the thorns, and carrying it tightly with one arm, holding the snaky head well away with the other hand, for he did not wish his eyes picked out, he took it to the verge of the canal and dropped it in.
Okay, ready? What kind of conflict does Mr. Peters have with the swan? Individual versus what?
Nature.
Okay, good. Good job.
Do we have a conflict yet?
yes.
You okay? A conflict, maybe, kind of starting?
Not
No,
really.
yeah, it's. We can tell it's gonna happen soon. Okay, we can tell it's coming, but it hasn't really fully happened yet. Okay. So, what part in the story are we in if the conflict has not really started yet?
Exposition.
Wait, no.
Jerome?
Exposition.
Exposition, okay? Because we just found out the characters and the setting. Okay, so we're still in the exposition.
And Oakley said something that I want to go back to. Oakley, you just said something about conflict and interest. So, like, if you're writing a story and you don't introduce your conflict quickly, your reader could become bored. Because what you want to do is create happy people, happy things, and then just mess
Destroy
with it.
them.
And then,
God's
Yeah.
love. So like every single Disney movie ever.
yes, like
exactly.
Finding
Wow.
Nemo
It
is like
makes
the
so much
perfect
money.
example.
Like
yeah.
Up.
Run,
Kill,
baby,
kill
run.
the moms, Disney.
Oh yeah, like Up.
Nemo, Bambi.
It's always an
His wife died.
It's always, yeah,
Oh
that's
yeah, and let's not forget Elsa.
And then you
Yeah,
have to
no.
say,
Oh, yes, you're right.
Both parents. died.
Well, yeah, that's double sympathy. All right, let's
All
keep
God
going.
simply assumed with great dignity and sailed out to the middle of the water, where it put itself to rights with much dabbling and preening, smoothing its feathers with little showers of drops. Mr. Peters waited to make sure that it was all right, and had suffered no damage in its struggles. Presently the swan, when it was satisfied with its appearance, floated in the bank once more, and in a moment, instead of a great white bird, there was a little man, all in green, golden crown and long beard, standing by the water. He had fierce, glittering eyes, and looked by no means friendly. "Well, sir," he said threateningly, "I see you are presumptuous enough to know some of the laws of magic. You think that because you have rescued by pure good fortune the king of a forest from a difficulty, you should have some fabulous reward."
Okay, so at this point you might be confused. I don't know if you thought about this, but if a creature like this can turn from a swan into like a leprechaun, how does it not get itself out of a bush?
That's true.
Okay, so you have to think, in your head, that doesn't make sense logically, but since it's a fiction story, anything goes, right? And so on the SOL, when you're reading a section, you should try to determine if it's nonfiction or fiction. It's not necessarily going to say, but it'll be easy for you to figure out. Because based upon the section you're reading, you're going to have different questions. Questions about conflict, or questions about internal text structure, or external text structure. Okay, so go ahead.
And guys, why do you think it is important to know that like as soon as possible when you're reading? How does that help you to know the difference between fiction and nonfiction? How might it help you? Think about it. It's hard. How might it help you to figure out the differences between fiction and nonfiction? For example, if you're reading a fiction text, you might be thinking about the theme or the author's message. If you're reading a nonfiction text, what might you be thinking about?
Why someone sat down and took the time to write it.
Okay, so you might be thinking about author's purpose. You could also be thinking about main idea. And those things are very different. So you want to make sure that you figure that out as soon as possible so that you're kind of reading with a purpose.
Yeah, and the way your brain organizes information, if you frame it, you have little files up there. So like you have a nonfiction file and a fiction file. And if you access your fiction or nonfiction file, it will be easier for you to understand what you're reading and based upon the files you're kind of downloading. That sounds really weird, but that's
Is it?
Yeah,
Yeah, is
so
it
then you gotta pick it back out of there.
Forced
Neuroscience
access?
guys.
Isn't that piracy?
"I expect 3 wishes, no more, no less," answered Mr. Peters, looking at him steadily and with composure. "3 wishes he wants, the clever man. Well, I have yet to hear of a human being who made any good use of his 3 wishes. They mostly end up worse off than they started. Take your 3 wishes, then..." He flung 3 dead leaves in the air. "Don't blame me if you spend the last wish in undoing the work of the other 2. Mr. Peters caught the leaves and put 2 of them carefully in his note case. When he looked up, the swan was sailing about in the middle of the water again, flicking the drops angrily down its long neck. Mr. Peters stood for some minutes reflecting.
Okay, just really quickly, guys. When the leprechaun says, "Don't blame me if you spend the last wish in undoing the work of the other 2," why do you think the author included that line?
Think about Monday, what you did for a warm-up.
Aladdin.
Oakland.
To set up a problem.
To set up a problem. Okay, Angela?
Foreshadowing.
To foreshadow. Good, that was the word we were looking for. What is he foreshadowing?
He's foreshadowing that he might like mess up everything.
Okay, so yeah, it's giving us a hint. Liam, did you have something to add to that?
To basically reference to the conflict that happens in the future.
Okay, good, excellent.
On how he should use his reward.